Okay, there we go. The things that it asks you to do relate directly to TPA 3 and TPA 4. Okay, so the tasks themselves are things that you know how to do, especially since you did TPAs 1 and TPA 2. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you or provide you with the information that I received, kind of decrease the anxiety level about this exam in general, and then take any questions that you might have about it, okay? All right. The first thing I want to share with you is this email that I received yesterday, from Sharon. I don't think that you have received this email, and so it's really important. Let me tell you why the March 3rd date was originally chosen. If for some reason you did not pass all the tasks, you would still have enough time to resubmit the tasks that you didn't pass before the end of the term. By doing that, you would not be holding up your credential. That's basically the reason why this March 3rd date was chosen. However, you can hand this thing in anytime you want to, because we don't grade it. It's graded by the state of California. A whole bunch of other people grade this thing. So that's why you have the freedom to pick when you want it done. Just be aware that it does impact your credential. Now, Anthony, you're not an intern, so it's not going to impact you. It'll just impact your getting your preliminary. Yeah. But Susan, it could impact you because you're an intern. The other thing that is important to know is that, you're going to get the voucher. And if you have to retake, you get this $100 for each resubmission. And each task, I think they're 5 tasks. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think 4.
4 tasks. For each task, if you have to resubmit, it costs $100. So that if you had to resubmit task 2, you could pass everything except task 2, then you would get $100 for that resubmission. These rubrics you get in the TPA Center at Cal State Teach. I mean, this is nothing. This part is not a new piece of information. But what I want to show you is how they're looking at this information. Let me make it a little bigger. I have old eyes. Okay, there we go. So first of all, the logistics for this, the logic for this is there is an understanding that you are beginning teachers, that you are not going to be a proficient like a teacher who's been teaching for a long time, who's been in the profession for a long time. So as they're looking at these levels they're actually 5 levels, but they combined these 2. All right, so this is level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There are 5 possible scores that you can get. So a 1 to 5. You want to get from 3 to 5 as much as possible.
And this is per task?
This is per task.
Got it.
Per task. So they're looking for, as they look at these tasks, I want you to notice these bolded, the bolded words here. This is the part that's really important. It says candidate plan of instruction, and this is the number 1. This is task 1, planning rubric. And there are 5 of these rubrics for the planning the lesson. All right, there are 5 of them. They're going to look at 5.
So 5 rubrics for 4 different tasks.
For 4. Well, this has nothing even to do with the math. Let me go ahead and show you how it works. This is just planning for the literacy learning. That's this one task. So in this respect, what they're looking for is, it says focus solely on literacy skills without connection to any essential literacy strategy or comprehending or composing text. What if, in other words, you just say like, fill in this thing. All right, that says that you're emerging and you're way below a level where they want to put you in front of children. Children would be harmed if you were in the classroom. So this is not a comprehensive list. This is just a list that represents the kinds of things that they're looking for. Is one of the things that our trainer told us is oftentimes when this document is shared with candidates, the candidates think this is the checklist and that's all they do. It's not. This is representative of the kinds of things they're looking for. That's very important to keep in mind. Oh, if you notice that sometimes it says or, and this is or and. That's important when you read through this. So here, one of the key things that the trainer told us is that for this particular one, remember how I always say you cannot teach whom you do not know? This is where you're talking about the context of the learning, the students, the community, the parents, the school, the background, the IEPs, the behaviors that you notice. This is where you describe your class. And it has to be thorough, because when the evaluators look at this and you are creating your lesson, they're going to look and see, did you address the things that you talked about in the planning? Did you take into consideration the students that you're teaching when you created this plan and decided to implement this lesson? So this is a commentary, and I'm going to show you what all these look like, but the commentaries are the most important part. The evaluators are instructed to read your commentary first. And in your commentary, you're not only going to say what you're going to do, but you're also going to say why you made that choice, why that choice of strategy fits this planning for instruction, or fits this lesson, or this kid, or this assessment. And it needs to be the type of response that fits this one particular environment, not something you could drop in any lesson. So your focus student must be an EL student. That one you must deal with directly. Your second student, your special needs student, is someone that you just have to talk about what you would do. All right? So if you have your EL student and you're planning for instruction and you're saying, I'm going to have them do a pair share and talk to, I'm going to do wait time with this person. Well, wait time is something that you can drop into any lesson. That's not good enough. You have to say, because the student is at this level, I'm choosing to do this, and because this will address this need with this kid. Any questions so far? Okay, so your goal in your rubrics are to go between here and here. Proficient is fine, that's a 3, but you want to stay in this area. This says you're okay. You can go out in the classroom. This says you're pretty good. And this says you've got lots of skills. But all of this is looking through the lens of a beginning teacher. Okay? And the same thing goes for all of them. This is the one, here's a second one, planning to support varied student learning needs. Now remember, you just described your class. Now you have to talk about what is the candidate, how do you use the knowledge of the target students to support this literacy learning? So in this case, again, it tells you how you're going to go about doing this, and it's really important. It's always aligned with the learning outcome. Always align it with the learning outcome, but you have to be specific. Support for the whole class is X, but for the students that are reading below grade level, this is the plan for support for them. And for the students that are gifted, this is the plan support for them. And for my EL student, this is that plan support. And this is why I chose that plan. So it's the strategy and the activity and the rationale. Strategy is teacher choice. Activity is what the students are going to do, and then the rationale for the choice.
Can you say that again?
Can
you say that again? The strategy is?
The strategy is always what you decide. The teacher decides, I'm going to use this strategy. Think of what you do in a T-chart. And you have the teacher side and the student side. The teacher side is strategy. The student side is the activity that matches that strategy. The strategy is pair share. The activity is the kids are going to talk. The rationale is why is this good for these kids? And what are you going to be looking at? Just talking to one another isn't enough. If you describe the class as having it's developmentally appropriate because it's a chatty class, that pair share, number one, is a good way for you to use that in your instruction. But you have to do more than just say they're going to pair share. You can say, I'm using this because this class developmentally likes to talk, and this is a chatty class. You have to be able to say, but they will use this language, or they're going to use the syntax or something like that when they're talking. Okay? It has to have more. The purpose has to be one that truly fits this lesson and not something you could drop in any lesson. That's the one thing she kept saying. They're looking for something specific to this lesson, to these kids. Then you get to the rubric on your planning, using knowledge of students to inform teaching and learning. And this is your knowledge of the students to justify your instructional plan. Okay? I know little Billy has this issue, and so I'm going to do this, and that's why this is going to justify that plan. Because your commentary that you write, they apply this rubric to that one commentary. So that one commentary has to be very rich. And still, this one is planning, still in the planning for instruction. Number 4 is identifying and supporting language demands. This is the one that you could probably get tripped up on because our curriculum is not as strong in this as it should be, but that's why I'm sharing with you the balanced literacy reading A to Z. Reading A to Z, if you just do one of those lessons, you'll be perfect. This one, it says general language supports address use 2 or more language demands. You see vocabulary, function, syntax, and discourse. That means that if you ask the kids to pair share, all right, you use discourse. If you ask the kids to talk about the vocabulary in that discourse, you use 2 of those. If you ask the kids to talk about the vocabulary and the language function in that discourse, you're over here. Then if you ask them to also discuss it using the right syntax, you're over here. So all of this means that just talking about the vocabulary is okay, but using that vocabulary in the proper function of language and in the proper syntax, the way that they say it to one another, is actually better.
Dr. Davidson, can you describe language function for me?
I don't know what that means either.
You know, it's a verb and they know how to use it. It's an adjective and they know where it goes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
See, right here, general language supports address 2 or more language demand. Function is just, it's a verb. This is the word. Syntax is they can actually say it well. they know how to make a complete sentence using that. And then discourse is just the ability for them to talk. All right, so those are the 4 things that you'd like to engage in whatever it is you're doing. All right, and then this is the last one, is planning the assessment. How are you going to monitor the children and check for understanding? Again, you can read what doesn't work over here. I want to get you, I only like to talk about what does work. So if you work from here, then that's fine. Now remember the ands and the ors. This only has an and in it. There are no and or here. So they want to see you not only provide evidence of monitoring the students, the essential literacy strategy, that's a minimum, and related skills. So during this segment, you have to provide evidence of essential literacy strategy and skills. And I'll show you that in the Reading A to Z. It's already there for you. You just have to know how to figure out how you're going to implement it so you don't look like you're reading a script. Whatever you do, don't look like you're reading a script, please. Don't read a script. You can have your questions and stuff there, but just don't read a script. So, and then this one is that not only are you doing this, they have related skills, but it's throughout the segment. So let's say that you are asking the kids to use this vocabulary word and have the syntax. And so let's say what they're doing now is defining the vocabulary word. So you ask little Johnny, you say, Johnny, can you tell me what?
Hypothesis.
Okay, Johnny, do you know what a hypothesis is? And he says, it's a guess. And you say it like a scholar, Johnny. And then Johnny says, a hypothesis is when you look at something and you get all this spunk and then you make a guess. Okay, so that's the difference from it's a guess and using it throughout. So as they are talking to you, you are forever pushing them back into the academic language. So you gotta make sure that when you're talking to your kids and you're having discourse with your kids, you're not framing the question so that it's 1 or 2 words. Gotta follow up with the how, why, where'd you get it, so that they're speaking more, using the right syntax and demonstrating that they can use academic language. Okay? All right, so that's the planning to teach. That's just the plan.
So if that's just the planning, it's where we're writing a lesson plan in there.
No, you haven't even written the plan. You haven't even written the plan. This is all your knowledge about the kids and theory and especially before I forget, make sure when you quote a theorist, you don't just drop one in, but do quote the theorists. Say, this is, I'm using this strategy because so-and-so says blank. So it's not just name dropping. It has to be meaningful. Now, I'm sorry. So ask your question again. I had to say that before.
So that first set of rubrics 1 through 5. So that's referring to the planning.
That's the planning. That's the commentary. Those are all the things that you are considering as you plan for the lesson itself, the actual instruction.
So we don't have any evidence of assessment. You're only talking about what you're going to assess.
Right. Right. But not in task 1. Task 1 is only the plan.
You don't have any evidence of engagement. You're only planning.
Right. And you're going to say, I'm going to ask the students these questions. And you write down the question that you're going to ask the student. And I expect to get an answer from the student that looks like this. Okay. So you even write, I'm going to say, and they're going to say, and I'm going to say, and they're going to say, and I'm going to say, and they're going to say. Very specific. So this is the commentary that lets them know that you understand what it means to teach and all the things that you have to consider. Okay? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
And I'm going to show you a commentary, but I wanted to go through these first because when you understand this, then when I show you this commentary, you can go like, oh, okay, I get it now, because it really did help. Okay, now this one is how the candidate demonstrates a positive literacy learning environment that supports students engaged in the learning. So now this one is the instruction rubric. The instruction, and yes, you will write a lesson plan, but the commentary describes everything, all your choices in that plan. And they're going to see the whole plan, okay? And you can use our LPA. They don't give you fill this out. You can use our lesson planning document, or if your school has a specific lesson planning document, you can use that.
Oh.
You do not know that there's nothing that you just hand in your lesson planning document. All right. So then this one is primary source of evidence. This is your video. This is now. Your video is no more than 20 minutes, and you're going to hand in 2 videos.
20 minutes total.
Yes. However, which I do not expect you to do unless it's really a damn good video, it can be as little as 5 minutes. So you can hand in 2 videos. 4 minutes could be demonstrating the instruction, and 1 minute could be demonstrating the assessment. That's fine. But I don't recommend that because you're not going to, I don't recommend that at all. But what I'm trying to tell you is it can be less than 20 minutes. You can trim off the front and the back of stuff. But it's best if it's unedited. You have a block of at least 10 to 12 minutes, at least 10 to 12 minutes of the actual instruction. And make sure whoever is videotaping it, I would encourage you to have someone videotape it with you, that they are also taking pictures of the kids in the room so that they see you and the kids engaging.
And these 2 videos are just for the literacy portion of the EdTPA.
Yeah, 2 videos. So just like, I don't think that you're going to have any problems with the videos because you're going to look at those videos the way I make you look at a video. That's why I started having you all really begin to analyze your videos. They want to see you engaging the kids, moving around the room, implementing your lesson as. And remember, if you write a lesson and that day the kids all have hiccups and you got to have a new lesson, then you just explain later on why there had to be these changes. Why did you make these modifications in the lesson? And if you don't want to do that, then just record another lesson. Okay? So they're going to be looking at your rapport. Do you have a positive interaction with your students? Is there mutual respect? And is there low risk? Meaning, do kids feel that they can make a mistake and it's okay? People will talk and it's okay. But that's really not enough. That's really not enough. For this one, you want to really strive to be over here. You want to shine on that video because that video carries a lot of weight, because you can write a whole bunch of stuff, but when we see you implement it, that's a completely different thing. The information I'm going to show you, the commentary this woman wrote was beautiful. It was all the way over here. The lesson she delivered was barely over here. The lesson was not very good at all. And the assessment was equally, it was what it was. She was proficient. There was enough there. So to say that she'd be okay in the classroom, but sometimes it was a low proficient, but not emerging. So I want you to really think about this. How are you going to encourage the students to participate in the activity? How are you going to check for understanding? Be sure to ask those follow-up questions. Have evidence of higher order thinking. Have evidence that the kids are not only involved in what's happening in the class, but they're involved in this lesson on a personal level. They want to be there. Okay. And if you have to tell them they got to look like that, then tell them they got to look like that. And then this is engaging the students in the learning. This is where you get measured on how did you engage the students in the learning, meaning the balanced literacy. So it's not just the fact that they're engaged, but are they engaged in the literacy, the lesson's objective for the literacy. Okay. And this one has and or. And then we get into the instruction again, deepening students' learning, still the video, and instruct commentary prompt number 4A. We'll look at that. But how you get responses from the kids. Again, if you package your 10 to 12 minute segment so that you're really prepared and the kids are ready, because the lesson you're going to give is part of a series of lessons, 3 and 5 days of a lesson plan, of a lesson series, or they call it a lesson event. And your video can be anywhere in there that you want. And the second video does not have to be from the same day of the first video. So if on Monday, if you decided to do something on the second day of the lesson, the second video could be on the 4th day of the lesson, because that's where you're going to demonstrate the assessment or something. So again, higher order thinking, definitely look at these, but remember, this is not a checklist. It's not the only thing they're going to look at. Subject matter pedagogy, which is, do you really know enough about the subject matter that you're confident with what you're doing? That you can field the questions, that you know how to dig deeper to get the kids to go in a little deeper in this lesson. And then analyzing teachers' effectiveness is like, how effective were you in doing what you did? And I'm going to show you the video of the teacher that we looked at, and she just talked at the kids for the whole 12 minutes. They raised their hand. She talked to kids one at a time. She never really asked a bunch of follow-up questions. She always just kind of stayed over here. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't great. It's what I always get on you. Why are you talking so much? Remember, don't talk so much. And then now this one is the assessment rubric. So this is looking at, all right, so what happened with this lesson? In the assessment, you're going to assess the whole class, and then you're going to assess your target students. You're going to have representations from a high, a medium, and a low, and your ELL. You can also put your special need in there. And in all these cases, I didn't say it before, but in all these cases, make sure that you talk about the adaptation that you're giving for the special needs student. You do not have to have evidence for that adaptation. You just have to talk about the fact that you're doing something for some kid with a 504. Little Johnny, who has the 504, is going to blank. And I'm going to do that for him because of blank. The EL kid, though, is the one you have to have evidence for. And then we get in providing feedback, meaning, okay, you looked over their work, and now how are you engaging with the child to provide feedback on how they can improve and strengthen what they need? You're going to have to, you can videotape those conversations you have. So let's say that you're talking to, I'll just use the EL kid, and they had to do a certain number of words. And the adaptation for the vocabulary for the EL kid was not only were the words there, but there were pictures of the words as well. So the kid didn't have to look at the spelling of the word per se. He could just match the whole word with a picture. But when he did that, he got 3 of them wrong. Okay, so now you have to look at that and first say, what was it about my instruction? I have to apologize. I look terrible. I just came from the gym. Honey, you're thinking, whoa, she really looks bad today. But I just came from the gym and my hair is wet and it was 6 o'clock and I was like, oh, what the hell? I'm just going to do this. So I apologize for looking so tacky.
You look fine.
You'd be glad you're not here to smell me because I'm having a problem with that myself. But you can videotape yourself talking to that child, and that does not count as part of the 20. That's different. That doesn't count as part of the 20. That's just a demonstration of how you're going to look at what you did to teach this kid, look at the mistakes he made, figure out how best to address future concerns for him. So if you have to reteach the lesson, what is it you're going to do differently?
So that would be a separate video file, or do we?
Yes, that's separate.
Okay. Don't edit it all together.
No, I mean, it could be like a 30-second clip. It could be a minute and a half. It does say in the instructions that if you can't hear a kid, you need to write a transcript, or you can just transcribe. You can audio it and transcribe it so they can see what the give and take was on that. But also you have to look at, for this assessment part is guiding future learning. The first thing you will always do is look at you. What did I do that made it so this kid didn't get it? What do I know about this kid that maybe I didn't address? What do I need to do now in order to reach him? And you see evidence of written audio or video. And this does not count. This is a separate. So you can record your conversation, you can make a little video of the whole event, or you can just write out what you did.
Not that this is going to happen to me, but what if my EL met my expectation and got 5 out of 5 words?
Okay, so then you look at it and you start to think, perhaps it's time for me to move this child's language further. This child needs more challenge.
Oh, okay.
So
Sure.
what you then do is you look at what the next level is, what the expectations are, and you sit down with the child and you tell them you're proficient now in the level that you are, and so I want you to know we're going to start doing more challenging things with you. And the first thing we're going to do is this. So I want to get you prepared. That kind of conversation.
Okay.
So this is you video of your EL, so you demonstrate like what you would do next.
It doesn't have to be your EL student. I just threw that. But this is saying that you're going to give this child specific feedback that is for this child to reach this outcome for this lesson and lessons that look like this in the future.
So this focus student, though, it's the EL student, right?
No, but this doesn't have to be the focus student. See this?
Okay.
Excuse me. This one is a focus student. Does the candidate provide to the focus students? Students. The students are the high, medium, and low. The kid that didn't meet it, the kid that did meet it, and the kid that exceeded it. Because you have to do someone that didn't meet your expectations, someone that either met it or almost met your expectations, and then someone who met the expectation and or exceeded it. That's the feedback that they want to know that you're going to give to those 3 kids. This child does not have to be the EL kid.
Okay.
I always encourage you, if you're writing this, to consider also saying something about the EL child.
And this is what we would just say what we would do so they can reach the target. We don't actually have to follow up with that, or do we?
No, you're supposed to have done it. That's why they want either written, audio, or video, because this is the evidence that you're going to put up there. You're going to actually have their 3 papers. And so this is the evidence. And so the evaluator is going to look and see, well, okay, what was it about this kid that didn't do it? And you have to look at the whole body of the child. Like with this girl we're going to see, this young lady, one of the kids could barely write, and the writing was very phonetic and it was very low. But the information that she gave to support this child was very generic. And that's what they don't want, is generic. They want specific. See, the specific keeps showing up. Generic is this general junk. Don't do that. Be specific to this kid to meet these goals related to the learning objective. Okay? All right. And then student use of the feedback. This is rubric number 13. Focus student understood and use the feedback to guide their future learning. This is how, the candidate describes how the focus student will understand or use the feedback related to the learning. So now how's this kid going to, a clear description of how one or more focus students will understand and use the feedback. Because one is saying, this is the feedback I'm going to give, and then you give it. This is the feedback, and then this is how the student is going to use this feedback. So let's say, let's just say that you did the EL student, because it's easier. Anybody who's a language speaker, I don't care what language it is. So the kid has problems with syntax. So what you say with this child is, for this balanced literacy lesson, that this child is going to create a personal dictionary of the written word with a picture, and this child is going to use sentence stems so that they get accustomed to using the syntax of the language. And that's what the kid's going to do from this point on. So your plan to support the focus students' understanding and use. And so you're going to have, like this one-on-one conferences over the feedback and provide guidance. So you're going to, provide before lessons, or meet with the kid once a week for recess, or whatever it happens to be, in order to make this happen. Give them extra work, have them do stuff on the computer, address their weaknesses, identify, how are you going to do this? How's a focus student going to use this? And then analyzing student language use and literacy. So explain and provide evidence of student use of language function, one or more additional language demands, and so on. Explain and provide evidence of students' use of language function. So this gets into that syntax stuff, and you're going to see how this will be met in the reading A to Z stuff. And the hits just keep on coming. And then this is the assessment, using assessment to inform. Now this one is the assessment for prompt number 4. One is for the math. Now the math is really interesting. You don't even have to teach that lesson. You just have to observe it. Actually, you don't even have to observe the lesson. The lesson just has to be taught in some way, shape, or form. You get the student work. You analyze the work and identify the problems in that work. Then you say, based on what you have identified as the problems, when you assess that work, what are the next steps that you would give the individual groups to improve their learning? How would you now how did this inform instruction so that the next time, so that this child can get addition?
So it's not at all about the original math lesson that's taught. It's only about the assessment. Who cares about what was taught? Any old assessment.
It's in math.
Yeah, math. All right.
So you got to analyze the class, and then you analyze your focus students. Now, this is one of the really interesting things here is a class for this can be as small as 4 or 5 kids. Mm-hmm. That's a whole class. You do not have to demonstrate this in front of a whole classroom of kids.
This is for all of it.
Yeah, all of it. 4 or 5 kids. That's a whole class.
Minimum 4.
And this is only task 4, though.
No, the whole thing. No, the literacy, everything. A class is 4 or 5 kids.
It has to be at least 4.
Yeah, at least 4.
Okay.
That's a class.
But we should naturally just be using our own class, which is not 4 or 5.
Well, that's up to you. It's your choice. I would say in your context, yeah, use all your kids. I mean, it's not gonna hurt you to use all your kids. You guys know what you're doing. But for some teachers, using 4 kids is the perfect venue for them. You just have to make sure in those 4 kids, you got a high, medium, and low, because I don't know how you're gonna get their work of a high, medium, low if all those kids are the same. So, anyway.
As in the previous TPAs and things, we don't use names. We just use student A, student B, student C, or
or fictitious names.
Okay.
You say, I'll call this student Johnny, and this one's Jill, and Jack and Jill, and that stuff, kind of stuff. Be creative, Kanye, Beyonce.
They probably get really bored reading these things. We should actually liven it up.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the rubrics. I'm going to put these on the live binder so that you guys have access to them. But you already have this information in the TPA Center. I want you to see, oh, here it is, okay. These are the same rubrics that I showed you. This is nothing different, but I think this is the book that actually tells you what they're going to be looking for in that rubric. So analyzing student work, it's identify the specific learning objective measured by the assessment you choose for analysis. Provide a graphic table of, so you need to read this. You will find this, you need to read this whole book. This is the one that I read because you just need it. This is the elementary one. So when you go to the,
study guide, right?
When you go to, this is on the website, our website, you want this one especially.
Yeah.
And then you want to understand academic language. Now, I've been working with you guys about language, so I know that you guys are at least kind of remotely accustomed to what academic language is. But academic language is the language of the content. So just remember, you are teaching them to use academic language. And then these are the submission guides. You don't have to worry about those. Understanding rubric levels of progression. Let me just see what this is. Elementary education. Yeah, here we go. All right, so let's see what this is. So instruction, rubric A, deepening student learning. Okay, it tells you, this is the elementary 8, how did the candidate elicit student response? Guided questions. The key concepts in this rubric are this: building on student responses and significant content inaccuracies. The primary source of this evidence is going to be the video, notes from the task, and the commentary are also going to be part of that. And statements should not override evidence depicted in the video. So if you say something, but you see it in the video, then you get dinged in the video because you didn't do what you said. I think, hold on, candidates sometimes describe events. Oh no, that part. If it doesn't show up, that's okay. But the video is really important. And then criteria. This tells you how they're going to score it. So unpacking this. Patterns of significant content inaccuracies. This is an automatic 1 that are at the core of the central focus or a key learning objective. In other words, if you're teaching math and you don't know how to teach that math lesson, that's, oh, I lost Tommy. That's a bad thing. Then the evidence that demonstrates performance at a level 3, they tell you exactly what it looks like. This is below a 3, and then it tells you what a 2 looks like, and then above a 3. This one is the last one. And this one is understanding rubric level of progression. So you want to understand that because that's how you're going to get evaluated. Okay? That's something we didn't give you. We never did tell you how you were going to get evaluated. I like this, that they do tell you when this person looks at this, this is what they're going to be looking for. So make sure that you have this available to you so that this is your rubric. Once you write everything up, put that next to each one of your things and say, did I do this? Did I do this? If you did, you're good as gold. If you didn't, you need to do it. Okay. So that's the TPA in a nutshell. I'm not the TPA, the EdTPA, but there's more. There's more? Oh, of course there's more. Okay, so here is the Live Binder. Now, in the Cal State Teach Live Binder, you all were able to go to the Balanced Literacy tab, which is on here somewhere. I made it a color, and I can't remember what color I made it.
That's the green one.
Balanced Literacy, there it is. Okay, in this Balanced Literacy tab, you understand what balanced literacy is. We don't really speak to it that much in our program. We will now, but we haven't before. This is basically what balanced literacy is. And these are the strategies that you would see implemented if you were doing one of these bubbles in balanced literacy. Okay? Make sure oh, never mind, I'll do that later. This is the lesson that I gave you. I want to take this lesson apart so you can see how it will match. I didn't need. To Cal State Teach. Okay. All right. So these are just books. These would be the books that you would give the kid to read because they have to have the textbook. Okay, so then this is a copy of ELL, pair, function, overall, ELL. Here's the lesson. This is the lesson itself. Now, what I want you to notice is that it tells you what the focus is. The kids are going to match words to pictures. And what they're going to do, why are they doing this? Because they're going to practice pronunciation. You already know what the language, what their function's going to be. They're going to practice saying the words so that they say these words correctly. Then it gives you the instructional focus, and it tells you that you're going to need to build this background with the kids. And it even tells you what you're going to say. That's what I like about this, is it gives you the whole thing as a script so you can see how you would write, how you would do this. And then it tells you, have the students examine the front cover of the book, they read the title, yada, yada, yada. Then write the repetitive phrase from the text on the board. To blank make one pair of blank. Because they're going to be talking about pairs. That's syntax. That's academic language. Now, the point to each word in the phrase and read each word together. That is balanced literacy. Reading words together. Choral reading. You are listening to you are listening to pronunciation as they read. Then it says, now what you're doing is you're going to start filling in things. I put this in personally, I would put this in a pocket chart. So I could put to make this. To shoes, make one pair of shoes. And then I'd have the point to the words and have the students read it. That's balanced literacy. Function, syntax, vocabulary. So now that's the background. Shared reading, that is balanced literacy. That's one of the things that you would do. So explain that now they're going to do this, they're going to share read, and it gives you the purpose. You set a purpose for the reading. For this classroom, you want them to do this because shared reading provides this type of experience for them. And they can demonstrate by pointing to each word. So you want to make sure that they're doing something like that as they're reading. And then it says, discuss and ask questions such as the following to demonstrate word attack strategies. So when you say, I'm going to ask the kids these questions, which is the strategy, you're going to say the rationale. This is so that I can hear their word attack. and this is a strategy that will help them improve their pronunciation. The activity is the students will say these words on cue. There you go. Strategy, rationale, activity.
And how many of these do we need in our lesson?
As many as you need to teach the lesson.
All right.
It's as many as you need to teach a lesson.
Maybe like 2.
I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm just going to say as many as you need to teach a lesson. That's all I can say. So then it tells you, it gives you more. So this is day 1. This is a 3-day lesson. It automatically meets the objective of the event, the learning event, because it's 3 to 5 days. So then day 2, you write, this is the second lesson plan you would be writing, which is the day 2 lesson plan. And this one, they're going to be expressing quantities with numerals and 1 pair. This is a syntax, the 1 pair. And so now they're going to be able to do the singular and plural nouns. That's the function. And it walks you through. It tells you the models, the guided practice, the discussion, the independent practice, and the check for understanding. And here you have activities where they can record the responses that you now will be able to use as your evidence. And any of these lessons can be the lesson that you decide to record. You don't have to record this one. You can record day 1 if you want to. Talk about day 2 with that evidence, and then record something on day 3 if you want to, which is the guided reading. I mean, the rest of day, this is still day 2, but you get to decide what you want to do. And it tells you why. Look, instructional function, language function, visualize. It gives it to you. You don't have to guess. You just have to know. And then it tells you what the practice is. It gives you the model. What's really nice, it gives you the model. You model what you introduce it. You model what it is. Then you work on it together. And then you release them, which is always into through it. You model a lesson. They work on it. You work on it together. Then they do an independent then they do a guided practice to make sure they know how to do it. And then they do independent practice. Now, you see these words here, draw, encourage. You need to make sure you have your blooms with you, because you have to have a lot of these words, the verbs. The verbs say what the kids are going to do. Here's the ELL. Here's the EL. Here you go. The whole thing is there. Okay, you guys get that? Why? Do you see why I'm giving you this?
Mm-hmm.
It gives you everything. You can do anything you want, but you would be foolish not to use a reading A to Z lesson as your guide. You don't have to do it exactly the way it is in here, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to. Now remember, you talk about the fact it's a 5-day lesson or a 3-day lesson. You have to write it up for that. You have to be able to demonstrate that there were assessments along the way. Whether or not you implement the thing for 3 to 5 days, no one's really ever going to know that except you. All right, so now we're going back to the live binder, which I think is here. And you see this reading A to Z balanced literacy. If you go to this website right here, oops, you will get a 14-day free trial, which means you will have access to material. And you can find your lesson for your kids at their grade level and supporting information. So I'm going to log in so that you can see how to use it. Okay. We're over here where it says resources. You can go down to EL and bilingual. You can get a leveled reader pack. And then you decide on the grade level. You decide on the language, the type of book, then all these levels. So let's say who wanted second grade? Tommy, did you ask me for second grade? Okay, so here's a second grade book. These are all second grade. You want fiction or nonfiction? Who cares? I'll give you nonfiction. You want it in language arts. All right, you get it. I can be adjectives. I am I am your new plant. This is about verbs. Clown face, this is about verbs. So let's say, I don't know what levels you need for the kids. So let's just say they're F.
Can I see the adjectives? We're doing adjectives next week.
Oh, sure, yeah. Okay, so here's the whole thing. So we've got all the teacher resources, all the student resources. This levels of proficiency for kindergarten, if they were to look at this child would be at a level 3, 4. If they're in first grade, they would be at a level 2, 3. And if they're in third grade, they'd be at a level 1. So then you have all the resources. Then you have the day 1 plan, day 2 plan, day 3 plan. All those things are up here. I get all of this, and then I go pull each one of these things out by day. And I just put them in a folder.
So this definitely makes the lesson planning a lot easier. We'll still need to devote a lot of time and thought into the commentary, but for lesson planning, it makes it very, there's nothing to do really. Copy.
So what you want to do, well, I still have access to this. The 14-day trial gives you access to many things, but it may not be total access to some things because it is a trial. So go in, look around. Do you want this one? You want to see what the lesson overview is for teacher preparation?
Yeah, I can't tell what it is, but.
Okay.
How tired do you think they're going to be of seeing the same stuff like this, though? Do we need to jazz it up a little bit?
No, you need to make it your own.
Okay.
But the plan is here. Like I say, I don't want you to do a script.
Yeah.
But it gives you the plan, it gives you the functions, it gives you the lesson, but you can say, for my, and this is great because you look at your kids and say, for my kids, I'm going to do it this way. For my, and that's what you want because you want to say, I'm doing it this way for my kids because my kids are A, B, C, D, E. And that's what you put in the commentary. I'm doing it this way for them because they're like this. So here you have comprehension and decoding in day 1. You're going to build background and they're going to match words and pictures. They're going to do guided reading on day 2. They're going to do act out the text, comparatives with as and with as plus adjective plus as. So as beautiful as.
Blank as.
Like
similes or something.
And then they're going to do independent reading, assess, and then they're going to have grammatical structures. So this just tells you the kinds of things you're going to do and the overview of the lesson. Vocabulary is huge, gigantic. Make sure you have vocabulary because you're building language. So it tells you not only the target words, but also, see, these are the target words, compare and explain. But these are the other words, the related skills, the related words the students also need to know in order to access the book. These are the high frequency words. Here is your content objective. They're going to act out the text, compare living things, use targeted vocabulary, and retell the main event. That's in alignment. Language objective. That's the content objective. Here's your language objective. Use the past progressive tense, retell a story using comparatives. That's your syntax right there. That's your academic language. That's their practice when you're doing something. That's the thing you have to show them how to do. So now you know what you're going to do. This is the content objective, lesson objective. You can use any assessment you want. They give you assessments, but you can use what you want. Now it tells you how to prepare for this lesson. and it gives you the things you need: vocabulary cards, grammatical structure notes, vocabulary folder, vocabulary chart. Okay? And that's what everything else is. So everything else are the things: cards, folders, charts, and that's day 1. Activity, sentence recording sheet, language function sheet, retelling rubric sheet, even a rubric so you know what it's supposed to look like when they retell. And then I know that you're not going to get the EL packs in the 14-day trial. That much I know. So if we had 2nd grade, same thing. Let's see what this looks like. I'm not sure what's different.
I think that's the same one.
Yeah, it is. It is. But sometimes they have, it is the same one. Yeah. Oh, no. See, look, what I did is I went down to the EL pack. This is the regular stuff right here. Still the same thing, but this is the regular, this is the book. This is the lesson resources. Here are your teaching objectives, phonics, and then here are the resources for the lesson. Okay, that's what it is. I'm learning to navigate this site myself. Okay, and they even have a quiz. You want to give them a quiz. Okay. So you should have access. Try to get your free trial and see if you can navigate and find what you want. Remember, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to do everything. All right, so now let me show you what it looks like. Are you guys good here? Task 1. And this is what it's going to look. So this is where your task 1, planning, instruction, and assessment. The content is learning information. And so then it asks you to describe your school. And then it starts prompting you, list special features about your school, describe the district, about the class featured in this assessment. You're going to talk about this class, how much time devoted each day, identify any, you can say you are using reading A to Z as your balanced literacy program. That's okay. Just like she said, we're using this because schools have programs. So you're using reading A to Z as your balanced literacy program because that's what you use. Then it talks about elementary literacy, the assessment, blah, 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 disabilities. Let me see. Hold on. This is not the one I want. I want her.
And do we answer these questions within that document?
Here, hold on. Oh, here we go. This is her lesson. This is her lesson materials. What do you know? Making inferences. Okay, hold on. This woman's lessons materials. Let me see. Okay, this is just her lesson. Hold on. So you can see she didn't make all this stuff. She got this stuff. This is her PowerPoint. So you can put in your stuff from reading A to Z, or if you want to make it different, because they want to see how you implement the lesson. So that's her. This is her lesson here. I'm trying to get to the commentary.
So there was no template. She just did all this on like Word or something.
Right. There's no template.
Oh.
There's a template. This is what I want to say. Okay, so you get these directions. This was talking about the class up here. Then you get these directions, the central focus. Describe the central focus and essential literacy strategies for comprehending or composing text you will teach in the learning segment. And there, up here it tells you what this is. This is the planning commentary directions. This is the biggie. So here, this is where you talk about everything. This is where you explain everything. So given the central focus, describe how the standards and the learning objective within your learning segments, how does it address that? Given, explain how you plan to build on each lesson. Then, number 2, knowledge of students, just the rubrics. Now we're going into, that's your not supporting students' literacy learning. Number 3, consider a variety of learners in your class who may require different strategy support, and then you have to talk about that. So this is the commentary, language functions. And it gives you these things. So like for the lesson we had there for a minute ago, they were going to retell. And the 3rd grade lesson that we looked at, they were going to retell. Consider the range of understanding for your students. So this is the commentary, and you read this first. She put all these in. I'm not saying you do or you don't. Then this is the lesson. They look at the lesson after they've read the commentary. So then this is all the lesson, all the crap that she's got in this lesson for the whole. And then here is the lesson plan. This is her lesson plan document. Apparently this is the one they use at her college. This isn't even a California college because she has no ELs in her class. So this is out of state. And then structures for the grouping, and then it asks you the prompt, and then you give the answer. The prompts, and you give the answer. So the big idea and the rationale. Knowledge. I always make sure that you explain why you're doing what you're doing. And then it asks you about the objectives, the standards, the academic demands, expectations for students learning, and so on. This where it says launch the hook, this is actually the launch of the lesson. How you're going to get them involved. This is that open in the lesson. Then how you're going to transition them. They're going to explore how students are going to engage in the text. And this one's about making inferences. This is the lesson in here, the instruction. And then how are you going to close the lesson, just like we have it. And then here you have your differentiations and extensions. So for little, our second language students, you can talk about all of his differentiations. It's specifically either here or up here. I encourage you to put them in the body of the lesson and say for the EL student, this is what I expect. But remember, you have to describe the student based on the level that that child is. Be very specific. He was tested at this in reading and tested at this in oral language and so on, the way you want to do that. So that then when you make a, based on what you saw, what can you infer? You can also say for the EL student, I will have him do this to answer that question. I will give him these sentence starters so that he can practice his syntax. Whatever.
Hello, Dr. Davidson.
Who is this? Oh, is this May?
This is May Hamanek. I'm finally in.
Oh, okay, May. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Keep going.
So then we have over here the differentiations. And remember, you described your class as challenging above average students, below average students, whatever it happens to be, extensions. And then these are your considerations. What if something happens? What do you anticipate? How are you going to shore up the things that you anticipate? What resources are you going to need in order to teach this lesson? And then you go into lesson number 2, because this is a 3-day lesson, and you have to go do the whole thing all over again. Make sure that as you are writing these lessons, that they can see the build from lesson 1 to lesson 2, lesson 2 to lesson 3, how they link together to reach the objective, the overall objective. And then she does it for lesson 2, lesson 3. This is lesson 3. And then I get to stop talking because that was the last lesson. Okay, so
Again, that was her template, right?
That was her template. So you can use our template if you want to. This is how the commentary for the video. Again, explaining what you're doing. You have a whole commentary for the video now, explaining what you're doing. Describes your instructional links, prior knowledge, and so on. So let me show you the video. This is the first video. Okay, I want to make sure that one doesn't start. Okay, here we go.
So we're using the information that this has given us, and we're also using the information that we know already about popcorn and maybe the sun and sunscreen, that we found this cartoon to be a little bit funny. What we're going to be talking about today are inferences. Has anyone heard of the word inference before? Raise your hand if you have just heard of the word inference. Okay. Inferences are pretty similar to conclusions. Has anyone ever heard of the word conclusion? Raise your hand if you've heard of the conclusion. Some more hands should be up. Can anybody tell me what a conclusion is? Maybe what a conclusion is. Jack Wilson.
You see how she wrote there? If a child says something and you can't really understand what the kid says, you need to either put it on a transcript or you need to put it so that the evaluator will be able to know what the kid just said. Bless you.
The conclusion is answering a question that you have at the beginning and you have a new answer at the end. Any other ideas about what a conclusion might be? Nina?
A conclusion is something like that.
That wraps everything up. Excellent. Any other ideas about a conclusion?
This is just a straight video like all the videos that we do. So make sure then that you go back and look at your video and be perfectly honest about what you see, positive and negative. But also, if you see too much negative in that video, reteach the lesson. Just reteach it, okay? So this is her big one, which is the one where she's actually doing the instruction. This is the second one. And I think this is when they were doing the assessment. They were working with the inference with a text. That this is her demonstration. Because the first one was just her giving direct instruction. And then the second one is where the kids are supposed to be actually engaged in using the learning. So here, this is probably another day.
So I really like how we're using the information that we already knew with what we saw.
Same day.
Now that we have both of these columns filled out, let's look at the bottom part. It says, using the chart above, I can infer. And right there you can see that I wrote, we're using both sides of that chart. IC plus I6. So what I want you to do now is kind of write a snippet of inference. We're going to write an inference using the sentence start. I think blank because blank. So in the first blank, which column of the chart are we talking about?
Okay, so this video is just a little over 2 minutes long. But this is where she has the kids actually engaged in the literacy learning and the text. What I want to show you, one thing about her first clip, is that it's very important that while you're doing the instruction, the instructional event with the kids, that you do things that are relevant to the kids. In this one, she puts cartoons in her PowerPoint.
What do you think that means? Does anybody know what reading between the lines might mean?
And
any guesses, Ava?
And the cartoons in the PowerPoint actually give her more credibility because she demonstrated that she understood what this grade level means.
Go ahead and read that one loud and clear, please.
Choosing the most likely explanation from the
oh, you see all those hands that went up? There was a point in here where all the kids were like really engaged because she used a picture or some cartoon picture. my point is that they want to see that you actually just constructed this lesson to meet the needs of these kids. And she did that, and that was one of the things I gave her point. So all the woman did was talk for 12 minutes and 40 seconds, and the kids got to talk for 5. So it was very frustrating to watch, but that's a whole other thing. And then the last one is assessing their work. And again, you have a commentary. You have to talk about analyzing the student work. What was your methodology for analysis? What are you observing and patterns in the analysis? What this is telling you about what they learned, and what this is telling you about what you need to do and what they need to do. And this is where you're going to have that conversations with the kids. How you're going to have provide them with the feedback. For this lesson, now this is just the literacy. We haven't even talked about math. Now the thing about, so are you guys good on this now? Are you comfortable? Yeah? Okay.
Connie, do we have access to these sample documents?
I'm going to put them up in the, May. We were allowed, yes, we could share these with you. That's right. This is the one.
Yes, that's right.
Share.
That's right. We can.
We can share this with you. So I'm going to put them up in the live binder under EdTPA. I'll make a tab and put it in the live binder under EdTPA.
Okay, that's great.
That was a question we asked.
Yeah, and she did say that, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this will be, because I want you guys to read through this. Her her first commentary, her very first commentary was really, really good. The other commentaries, not so much. So looking at the commentaries, the one I would want you to study more than the others is the first commentary. The other commentaries let you see what proficient looks like. The first commentary was scored in the advanced number 4, in the column number 4. Everybody, that's where it was scored, in the column number 4. But as you can see, as you read through what was intended, the planning is your intention. This is what I intend to do, and this is why I intend to do it. The other two are, this is what I did, and then finally is, based on my reflection of what I did and the student data, this is what I taught, this is what they learned, and this is what I need to do as next steps for myself and for them. Okay? I'm glad I recorded that because I think that was pretty succinct, and I want to say that again. Okay, now, task 4, we don't have a rubric for 4. It might be in the Cal State Teach website, but we did not get a rubric for 4. As a matter of fact, she hadn't really done 4 before. So let me see if
right.
I know there's information on 4, but the thing about 4, like I said, you don't even have to see the lesson. You're analyzing the student data and what you would do to reteach it to shore up. I would encourage you, if you don't have to teach the lesson, you can see somebody else teach the lesson. So like Susie, you do social studies. Go to a 2nd grade teacher and look at her teach a lesson in math and ask her, can you have student samples? And then you will use those student samples. You saw what she did. I think it's important for you to see the lesson being implemented. So you can document for yourself. The teacher used this, 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 and this. The teacher said things like this. So maybe the teacher will let you record the audio or whatever. Then you want to look at, this is what I see in the student work. That's where you're really getting student work. From that student work, these are kids that met it. These are kids that did not meet it. These are kids who almost met it. All right? The kid that almost met it, the children that almost met it, where did they get confused? Is there a pattern in that confusion, or are they all over the place? Did they all miss the same number 2 and number 5? Or Did they miss number 1, number 3, number 2, number 5? There's no pattern. Because a pattern of number 2 and number 5, you now look and see, well, what was the prompt? What was I asking them? And it could be it was a bad question. Or it could be it was the same kind of question and they don't know that function. And then you look at the kids that met it and you look at the kids that didn't meet it. And you're looking for patterns. What is it? If it's all over the place, then you know that there's a general disconnect among the students that's confusing. And now you have to figure out, how am I going to help these target kids? Because you have to I don't know if you have to rewrite the letter. You have to discuss how you would teach this differently, what you would do differently. I wish I had more on 4, but I don't.
You don't have a lot.
Because she didn't give it to us. So, but I do know that this one, I think, is the one that gives you task 4. Making good choices. So I think this is your student handbook for 4. Yeah. Analysis of student work at the whole and analysis student work focused students. Okay. How do I choose the students? What am I looking for? This is very thorough. It'll tell you what to do. They call it re-engagement. They don't call, they say, okay, how am I going to re-engage the students so that they get it? So use that language. Whatever language they use it. But this is good. I remember reading through, and it really does tell you how to go about doing it. Once you finish the literacy one, this will be a piece of cake.